as of today, July 18th, it seems like free agency is over. There's a few guys here and there, but pretty much every notable guy has been signed. A lot of big trades have happened in the offseason, too. But there's still moves that can be made, and I just want to talk about a few of the team's needs. Not specific moves, but just some team needs. Starting off with the Chicago Bulls, who have really something they've been trying to do the entire offseason, and that is offload Zach LaVine. It's not even offload all of your veteran talent, which apparently they were trying to do so, but they have been struggling. I can honestly see them going into the year with LaVine, with Vucevic, with Lonzo Ball still on the roster, but they do really need to try to offload them. But I just don't think they can. For the Cavs, they need some backup big. They got Damian Jones as one, but they just need some backup big men. Sign some guys. There's a ton of centers on the trade market, maybe too rich for Cleveland, but just getting any backup big. I mean, you have Jared Allen, Evan Mobley, obviously, as your starting bigs, but Tristan Thompson is well up there in age. You still want him to be your backup center. And even as forward bigs, they just don't have a lot. They really just need some bigs. For the Grizzlies, again, it's going to be a very common thing because centers have not moved around with a ton of teams needing centers in just any big play. This is going to be the most common thing we see in this video. But the Grizzlies, they're not the biggest, but they're one of the teams that I expected by now to at least have tried or gotten close to trading for one because Jared Allen, Jaren Jackson did not play well at center last year. You ideally still want to play him at the four, let him be a stretch big. And who else is on your roster to play center, even as a backup? Not a lot. Zach Edey will probably be your backup center. That's fine. I forgot about Zach Edey. But a starting center alongside Jaren Jackson, push everybody up in the lineup would be fine. And also, I'm going to say Brandon Clark, I'm pretty sure they have listed forward here. Played a lot of center minutes. You really don't want that either because he's 6'8", more of a rim runner. For the Hawks, the Hawks are in a very interesting spot. They have a lot of, they're seeming to not go into a full rebuild, but they also have a lot of guys that will probably not be there when the team starts to win again. But also, you don't want to lose games because you don't have your pick next year. They're in an interesting spot. I think they should. I'm talking really DeAndre Hunter, Bogdanovich, and Capella. Those are the main guys I would see them consider trading. I think you have to trade at least one of them and try to get some draft capital to make up for anything that in the DeJounte Murray trade. I know you traded DeJounte Murray again to make up for some of those assets, but try to get as much assets back as you can while you're in this retool. For the Jazz, I'm going to share a sentiment that I did not believe in for a while, but now knowing what they can get for him, I think they should trade. Where is he? Lowry. I think they should trade Lowry. It's on an expiring deal. I do not doubt Utah being able to sign Lowry Markkanen. I think if they offer, he will accept. I think they can sign him back to a long-term extension. But he is keeping you. You can actually say he's not keeping you good enough that you're not getting top picks. They had the 10th overall pick, but again, you don't want to be in the 10s, 5 to 10s. You want to be in the 1 to 5 range. And the assets you can get back for him from Golden State, from San Antonio, whatever, may just be too great. I don't think you're going to be able to get a second star in the draft just based on where they're picking. I don't think they're going to be able to get a second star in free agency because it's Utah. Via trade, you could, but who's on the market for them? It's just get the assets. You have a lot of good young pieces you're building around. I think Walker Kessler. I think they should keep Walker Kessler. I don't see a reason to trade him. He's not gonna win you games. He's not a guy where if you go full rebuild, he's gonna prevent you from getting a top 5 pick. No, but if you really want to get 2 first-round picks for him, that is pretty good. I still think they should keep him though. For the Knicks, again, one of the teams, probably the most desperate team for center play. Is Precious going to be your backup 4 or 5? It's seeming like it now. Obviously, Mitchell Robinson, not healthy ever. He's going to start at the 5, presumptively. That's the word. If they don't trade for a center, Walker Kessler's on the market. Clint Capella's on the market. Maybe. Actually, I've read that the Hawks are not willing to trade for him, but I feel like if you give a good offer, they would be willing to move off of him. That's probably the main two. I don't think Şengün's going to the Knicks. I think the Şengün rumors are stupid. They don't have the assets anymore. I don't think they're willing to give literally everything they have, assets wise, to get Şengün. Even though, like, obviously that would be amazing for the Knicks, right? I don't think the Rockets are going to trade him if they weren't willing to trade him for Brandon Ingram. So I think Walker Kessler's probably your best bet, but they need it. They're not going to win a championship with what their big man rotation is right now. For the Brooklyn Nets, Cam Johnson, Dorian Finney-Smith, Dennis Schroeder, all got to go. You're committing to the rebuild. Commit to it fully. Get all the assets you possibly can for those three players. For the Denver Nuggets, you just need more depth, especially at shooting guard. After losing KCP, is Julian Strawther going to be your starting shooting guard? Is it going to be Christian Braun? I think they would be happy with Christian Braun, but they need some depth. And they've been struggling with money. They couldn't sign KCP. They had to they offloaded Reggie Jackson for literally nothing, just for a little bit of cash and picks, just to get off the contract, just to stay below hard cap, all of that. And they have some, it's young depth. Watson's young, Strawther's young. Who else is young? Najee's young. Deron Holmes, I would say, is young, but he's not going to play this year, unfortunately. So they just need to find some depth. The Pelicans have two options now. One, they need big. They also need big. More desperately than the Knicks. I forgot. I said the Knicks earlier. Way more desperate than the Knicks. Your backup five going to the year is going to be the 20th overall pick in a weaker draft. Or is it going to be Zion? Probably not. Daniel Tice. They also need a guy who can fit alongside Zion. So they need to trade for center. And always the presumptive thing. I think everybody just assumed the Brandon Ingram thing. If you have two routes, you do you trade Brandon Ingram, which I think is extremely it seems unlikely, or you re-sign him, which I think is actually something that could happen. I feel like they are going to re-sign Brandon Ingram, but if you do that, you have such a good first four. You just need to get a center badly. They're not going to win shit without a center. The Rockets are in an interesting spot because what do they have? I say they don't need to do this. It's not a need, but if they want to make a splash, they can make a splash. You have a ton of picks that are not yours that you can trade. From Phoenix, you still have a little bit of Brooklyn. A lot. You have a ton of picks that aren't yours. And the big thing is you have contracts. They have the most tradable contracts in the league. Steven Adams, I think they'd like to keep as a backup center, but he's a tradable contract. He's making like 12. Dylan Brooks is making 22. Jeff Green's making 8. Jock Landale's making 8. Aaron Holiday's making like something like 7. Same with Jae'Sean Tate. Like, so many tradable contracts. Fred VanVleet's contract is also done at the end of the year. If they wanted to go out and get Brandon Ingram, which I think they should definitely poke at, because you're going to be able to extend them after the season and just giving Fred VanVleet's money to him instead. And you have the picks and you have the assets, some assets that I said didn't want to go specific trades. I talked about this in a video like a week ago about potential trades and having Brandon Ingram saying it's very likely to go to Houston, and I still believe that. For the Spurs, I think they should keep poking the bear at a potential Lowry trade. You could just go into the year and say, we are fine, and we can, maybe you're saying we can make a play and push, but in reality you're like, we're still developing as a young team. We still have Atlanta's picks. We still have our picks in a really good draft class. And Chris Paul could help develop the team a lot. It doesn't matter if we make the play-in, cool. We don't, that's also good. Or you can just not push all in, but say, oh, Wemby's way better than we thought he was. I know, right? Exceeding expectations as the best or second best prospect of all time. Insane. And pair him with Lowry and say, we are going to try to make a playoff push and develop Lowry and develop Wembanyama, or not develop Lowry, he's already 26, but allow Lowry to run with the Wembanyama developing with a ton of young assets. Pick assets would, I guess, be going to Utah and some of the young assets. But you're building a young core with Lowry's Wemby. But you can also argue that the Spurs, even with Chris Paul, are still a 13 seed, a 12 seed. They'll still end up with the top 10 pick Atlanta can be in a lottery too, and you having 2 lottery picks in next year's draft would be amazing. I think I kind of go both ways on it. The Lowry trade, maybe the Lowry trade just sounds like so much more fun. I'm gonna backtrack here. I wasn't gonna talk about the Bucks originally, but now I am because I still don't think their bench is good enough. I think they need to upgrade the bench. Gary Trent was an amazing signing, one of, if not the most underrated signings this entire offseason. Getting him playing your back starting shooting guard, 40% 3-point shooter. They got him for no money, well cheaper than, honestly, he maybe $10 million plus cheaper than what he's worth. I still don't like the bench, especially with the Bucks' unwillingness to play a guy like Andre Jackson last year, play a guy like MarJon Beauchamp. Those are guys who can contribute, and maybe, just maybe, you have the guys on the roster that could win, that can be depth pieces. But I just don't think they're going to be utilized right, unfortunately. Maybe they will. Maybe they will. Maybe this is a year that changes. I still think they can go and get some more veteran depth, though. And finally, the Warriors. Do not trade for Lauri Markkanen. Don't. What are the Warriors with Lauri Markkanen? Let's say that. Let's say they get their wish and they only ship out Podziemski, Moody. Who cares about the picks because it's obviously not going to impact how their season goes. What are the Warriors? How good are they? I don't think they're above a 5th seed. I think they're maybe a 4th seed. They're like a 5th or 4th seed to me. And are you willing to mortgage your future with a 33-year-old, 34-year-old Steph Curry? And you'll have Lowry extended. You'll have Kuminga, but you'll have like a completely aging roster. And you're just going to give away all your picks. Do you want to be in pick purgatory where you are starting to be a bad team, a mid team, whatever, and you have no draft picks? That would be, I think there's no shot they win a title, which, with Lowry, which would be the only reason you even consider this. And I only say that for the Warriors because they've won 4 titles. And if you're making moves at this point, you're making it to win a title. You're not making it to give Steph anything. Or I guess you are trying to give Steph a last hurrah, but he already has one. It's not like you're trying to desperately get Steph a title you've already given him 4. So I just don't think it makes sense. But if they do, I don't know. I just don't think they should. But that's going to do it for, honestly, going through this and going through the teams and looking at like what do they need. It's thinning. It's thinned a lot, which it seems obvious, but most of the teams is just low-end depth pieces, which it's going to happen. Obviously, the whole center market is kind of a mess right now. And then the really only big guy who seems like is on the market right now is Lowry. It doesn't seem like Brandon Ingram's on the market anymore unless they can trade Brandon Ingram for Şengün, which seems the only trade rumor that's been going around. But that's it. Thank you all for watching.